Jamaica now has over 100 cases of COVID-19, and government is reminding citizens now more than ever that the virus cannot move on its own. If we restrict and control movement, we will, without doubt, control the spread. It's another informative edition of Jamaica Magazine, the program that informs, educates, and entertains. I'm your host, Audrey, and I have 30 minutes of important information waiting for you right after this break. Do stick around.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness has extended the time for persons in St. Catherine to restock essential supplies in a bid to limit crowding in public spaces. Wednesday, April 15 and Saturday, April 18 were announced as the first two restocking days, and the amendments are as follows. Persons 65 years and older, pregnant women, and the disabled will be permitted to conduct the essentials of life between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Persons with surnames beginning with A to H between 10 a.m. and 1:30 p.m., I to P 1:30 p.m. and 5 p.m., and Q to Z 5 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. Businesses that provide these essential services will therefore be open at 8 a.m. and close at 8:30 p.m. The employees are permitted to arrive at 7 a.m. and leave at 9 p.m.
Catch the latest update on government's comprehensive response measures to fight COVID-19 next.
The Alarica situation is the dominant challenge for us now in the country as it relates to COVID-19 and the response. It represents for us the weak link, if you will, in the arsenal and the work that we have been doing. It is going to be and is very difficult to reach all those individuals, but even more so to contact trace all the persons that they have come in contact with. And given the extent to which we have had positive tests, it is quite clear that the possibility or the likelihood of spread by one of those individuals to their friends, neighbors, the taxi driver, the restaurant, wherever they go, the possibility for spread are real, and it is something that we need to take very seriously. Hence, the measures that have been announced by the government, by the Prime Minister, are about St. Catherine. I want to just make an appeal to those persons who work with the company to call the Ministry of Health at 888-1-LOVE or 876-538-3149 or 876-538-2780, and we will make appropriate arrangements to reach to you and to collect samples. Alternately, if you're able to get to one of these health centers, the Linstead, St. Jago, Old Harbour, Greater Portmore health centers, or to the Alarica complex in Portmore. Now we know there's a curfew on, but we're going to make provisions for you to use your ID, your identification. If you have or still have your identification, to be able to reach to one of those locations for samples to be collected. Alternately, and perhaps more conveniently, if you call the number 888-1-LOVE and the other numbers that I've just outlined, 538-3149 or 538-2780, then we will make the appropriate arrangements to reach you. It's very important, given the extent to which we have had positive cases coming out of that call center. It's very important that we reach all employees and at least have an opportunity to interview them and certainly to collect samples from them. Our intention is to test everybody, and while we're making progress, we believe our progress will be greatly enhanced if we can get the outreach or the responses from persons who clearly know themselves, so that we the health team can do the necessary work to support the management of this particular crisis. There are 68 BPO facilities across the country. 62 inspections were done between March 14th and April 15. 50 of that 62 passed the inspection in line with the existing Ministry of Health guidelines for workplaces, with particular focus on the COVID-19 risks. 12 did not meet the criteria and have been provided with work plans to address these issues. Even as we speak, the Ministry of Health continues to monitor and to enhance those guidelines in keeping with what was announced in the Parliament by the Honourable Prime Minister. We're working with the association to the extent that they have their members. They are also working with their members. Other operators are not members of the association. We're also contacting and working with them in order for them to enhance the standards that are required. And as was said before, to the extent that those requirements are not met, then the government will take whatever action is necessary in the public health interests of the workers, but also more generally of the community and of the country.
Water is precious. So we encourage everyone to practice the 4 R's of water conservation. Always remember to reduce your use of water wherever possible. Replace water wasting devices with water savings devices. Reuse water wherever possible. And wherever leaks are found, please repair them and repair them quickly.
Don't delay. Practice the 4 R's of water conservation today.
The NWC says it has ended water supply disconnections during the COVID-19 outbreak so that Jamaicans can have adequate water in their taps to carry out effective hygiene practices, such as regular hand washing. In our next feature, we highlight the steps taken by the agency to ensure that the water is safe for our households.
The human body cannot function without water. While you may live for up to 3 weeks without food, you cannot go more than a week without water. From breaking down the food we eat so the body can use it, to helping us heal when we get sick, water is needed for almost every process that takes place in the body. And although 70% of the Earth's surface is covered with water, drinking it directly from seas, rivers, wells or aqueducts may make you sick. Untreated water contains bacteria and other germs, as well as chemicals that may be dangerous to the body. So in order to get the water from here to here safely, it has to be treated. Water treatment processes differ depending on the source. If the water is coming from a river, for example here at the Negro River in St. Thomas, it usually goes through an extensive treatment process before reaching the pipe.
Here is where we do the first type of treatment in the form of sedimentation and screening. Behind me you can see where we screen the bigger stuff like the sticks, the stones and debris. Then we come down to the sediment where we separate the sand from the stones. And then this water will leave from St. Thomas and pipe into Kingston via pipeline into the Mona Reservoir.
The Mona Reservoir is the island's largest raw water storage facility and provides the liquid to over 30% of people living in Kingston and St. Andrew. If this is where you get your water, here is where the next step in the treatment process occurs.
Here in the reservoir, we allow for maximum levels of mixing, maximum levels of aeration, as can be done here at the facility. We also, at the reservoir, you allow for settling out of the silt and the suspended particles, dirt particles, that would otherwise be in the raw water. We then take the water from the reservoir and take it to the Mona treatment plant.
At the treatment plant, chemicals are added to further purify the water. Chlorine is first added to kill bacteria.
You have stages that include flocculation, where we actually add chemicals to the water that allow those microscopic dirt particles that are still in the water to be brought together in what we call flocks, and then we are able to skim it off and remove it from the water.
The water is then passed through filters which contain layers of sand, gravel, charcoal or synthetic materials that remove remaining small particles. The final stage is disinfection. Here, chlorine is added to kill any other bacteria or germ.
Ensuring that we have what we refer to as chlorine residual that goes with the water, so that as the water travels along the pipeline to our customers, should it come in contact with any germs along the way, there is enough chlorine residual in that water to destroy those germs and still be delivered to the customer in good quality.
The water is tested all throughout the treatment process to ensure that what you get in your pipe meets World Health Organization standards.
For several years running, the National Water Commission has won the best tasting water in the Caribbean. We have also been acknowledged by the various arms of the United Nations at different points in time as having one of the best quality water in the hemisphere.
That is definitely something we can drink to.
During this time of the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, literally every face-to-face meeting, conference, and class has been cancelled in favor of going online. However, we must remember to cater as best as possible to the deaf and hard of hearing. We implore members of the private sector and users of social media to use the services of a sign language interpreter where and when possible. For further information on how to assist the deaf and hard of hearing, contact the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities at 876-926-9376 or 876-618-1133. We ask all our stakeholders to play their part in catering for persons with disabilities. Take care of our persons with disabilities, not only today, but every single day. A message from the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
Mr. Speaker, in terms of the testing protocol, I know a number of questions have been asked about this. Just let me remind the House that in keeping with the testing protocol, specimen must be collected from and will be tested for COVID-19 for the following persons. This is the existing protocol, but let me just say that it is under review constantly as the phase of the virus expansion or spread continues. We adjust the protocol as we go along to co-opt more groups. All suspected cases, as per the case definition, are tested. All symptomatic contacts of confirmed COVID-19 cases, whether they display symptoms or not. All asymptomatic close contacts of confirmed COVID-19 cases, which is linked to the previous statement I made. All SARI cases for all hospitals. All admitted lower respiratory tract infection or pneumonia from all hospitals. All influenza-like illness cases. All healthcare workers who have been assessed to be at risk from exposure to COVID-19 cases. All symptomatic healthcare workers, irrespective of contact history, are tested. And this group essentially forms the core in terms of the targeted groups that are tested as a routine in order to determine the extent of the spread of the virus, to detect, to contain, and of course to treat. By Friday of this week, Mr. Speaker, we will add a second facility to do COVID-19 testing. This is at the National Public Health Lab, and this facility is now being installed. We expect that this will be able to do an additional 350 samples per 8-hour shift. So essentially, we will be in a position to more than double our testing capacity in terms of samples per day. And depending on whether we operate 1 or 2 shifts, we will adjust as the need arises. In terms of the mobile testing, we have retrofitted 5 mobile units, Mr. Speaker. Up to yesterday, 4 were deployed to the respective regions, and this is in aid of expanding the sampling collection and testing for COVID-19. As part of those expanded testing efforts, we will begin this Friday, April 17, 2020, to expand the mobile testing in 2 health regions, the Southeast Regional Authority and in the Northeast Regional Health Authority. 1 unit was actually based in Clarendon, and I actually visited the quarantine community where they were collecting samples a few days ago. That was the first one to be deployed. Subsequent to that, additional units have been deployed. The mobile units, Mr. Speaker, will enhance the sampling or collection of sampling. There is a protocol that guides whose sample will be collected. So we have trained the medtechs to up to 55 have volunteered to support or work with the mobile units. 2 days ago, 35 were trained, and they are to train the remaining numbers, and they will go out, they will provide the discussions or the counseling, if you will, for persons who are so interested. The samples will be collected, taken back into Kingston, and tested either at the National Influenza Lab or the National Public Health Lab. In terms of personal protective equipment, Mr. Speaker, with the threat of the COVID-19, the Ministry of Health has moved fairly swiftly with all the challenges of securing personal protective equipment globally because of the demand by all countries of the world. We have moved to ensure that we have adequate equipment, personal protective equipment, and to date, orders valuing over 1 billion Jamaican dollars have been made. Major items delivered to date include an additional 35 ventilators, 6 ICU beds, 50 physiological monitors, over 2.2 million PPE items, so that includes the N95 masks, the protective equipment. There are 2 national quarantine facilities in the Southeast Regional Health Authority, 1 in Western Region, but negotiations are taking place to add additional capacity. In terms of isolation facilities, Mr. Speaker, there are 22 hospitals with wards for COVID-19 patients, numbering approximately 232 COVID-19 beds ready for use, and up to this morning, there were 57 beds occupied, which means an additional 175 beds available. A further 41 beds, Mr. Speaker, are to be ready in Southern Region within 3 weeks, 10 to be available in Northeast Region as needed, and a further 3 to be ready in the Western Region. This means, Mr. Speaker, that a total of 54 additional isolation beds in fairly short order, 286 within the next 3 weeks. In addition, the numbers of high dependency beds and ICU beds will continue to increase over time. This is where, of course, we have the very severe cases. Currently, 66 patients remain in isolation and 21 persons are in quarantine at government facilities. Mr. Speaker, we're pleased to report at this time that persons in isolation remain stable and there are no critically ill patients at this time.
To properly carry out a hand rub, apply a palmful of the product in your cupped hand, covering all surfaces. Rub your hands palm to palm. Rub your right palm over the back of your left hand with interlaced fingers and vice versa. Rub your hands palm to palm with fingers interlaced. Rub the back of your fingers to opposing palms with fingers interlocked. Rotationally rub backwards and forwards the clasped fingers of your right hand in your left palm and vice versa. Once your hands are dry, they are now safe.
As children island-wide grapple with the numerous societal changes brought forward by the novel coronavirus, it's imperative that they are adequately and appropriately educated so they can cope and protect themselves. Coming up next are some steps parents and guardians can take to do just that.
wash your hands frequently, and maintain a 3 to 6 feet distance from persons.
Families across the country are adapting to the evolving changes in daily life caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Most schools, places of public gathering, and non-essential businesses are closed, and parents and other caregivers are faced with helping families adjust to the new normal. This includes trying to keep children adequately informed during the outbreak. If you want to know how you can ensure that your children are equipped with the right amount of information they need about COVID-19, follow these next steps. The first thing you have to do is make time to talk to them. Talk to your children daily about the latest news and updates, and be sure to let them know that they can come to you if and when they have questions. When talking to children, ensure that you use words and sentences that are most suitable for their age group. This is the only way to ensure that the child receives and understands the information being shared. Let your children develop the habit of watching the news with you, but ensure that the information is credible and that information overload does not occur, because this can lead to anxiety. The outbreak of the coronavirus has brought with it numerous reports of racial discrimination around the world and general misinformation. So, it's important to check that your children are neither experiencing nor contributing to bullying. Make time to clarify all rumors and discriminatory claims. Explain to children how they can stay safe during the period. Talk to them about the importance of a balanced diet, social distancing, hand washing, sanitization, and other important safety measures. Children may inevitably become worried about all the changes happening around them due to COVID-19, but it is your duty as parents to assure them that steps are being taken every day to keep them safe. Impress upon them that, rather than be worried, they should be prepared.
Like children, adults may become overwhelmed with all that is happening around them due to COVID-19. They can easily become stressed and worried about the outbreak. If you or someone you know is having a hard time coping, here are some tips on how you can safeguard your mental health.
As parents, we're all living through this period of uncertainty. Here are 3 tips that I believe will help you to get through the challenges. 1, control your anxieties. There's a whole lot of information out there, so it's important that you limit the amount of information that you consume. Fact check. Trust only the authentic, reliable sources. 2, ask your children what they know. Listen for their answers and clear up whatever misconceptions they have. It is important that you reassure them. And 3, validate their feelings. If your children tell you that they're scared or they're frightened, let them know that it is okay. But continue to provide that love and reassurance so they know that they will get through.
I want to express gratitude to the Jamaicans at home and abroad, as well as friends of Jamaica who responded with great enthusiasm to this telethon. Thanks to their kind donations, we are now able to contribute over $50 million. To be exact, $50,261,000 after conversion of multiple currency contributions towards procuring the personal protective equipment for our frontline workers. We say a big thank you to everyone who was able to donate. We appreciate you. Donations are still coming in, Mr. Speaker, and so I know we have exceeded the figure I quoted earlier because we are still counting.
Together we stand strong.
On Tuesday, it was revealed that 31 workers of the Portmore-based business process outsourcing operator, Alorica, have tested positive for COVID-19, causing the entity to temporarily cease operations. In light of the increase in COVID-19 cases, State Minister of Education, Youth and Information, Alanda Terrelong, is calling on all BPO offices across the island to review and update their current COVID-19 health and safety measures, or to develop and implement policies where none exists. The minister stresses that even though the BPO sector has created over 40,000 jobs for Jamaicans island-wide, steps must be taken to safeguard the health of our society, in particular our youth. He believes that it is useful for other BPO entities to review their policies, implement necessary safety guidelines, install hand sanitizer stations throughout the workplace and on buses that transport workers, and install thermometers for mandatory daily temperature checks for staff upon entering and leaving the workplace. If our BPOs follow these procedures, not only will they be creating a safer Jamaica for persons to work and do business, but most importantly, a safer Jamaica for persons to live and raise their families. Our half-hour program of providing the latest information on how you can cope during the COVID-19 outbreak is now coming to an end, and we would like to thank you for sticking around and learning from us. As we go, do make it your duty to keep in the know by logging on to our website and all our social media platforms for your daily dose of important information. Until then, let's play our part in keeping ourselves and our society safe. Remember, if we control our movement, we will control the spread of the virus. Be safe.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.